And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Thank you all so much for joining us. Some of you guys might have joined us for a little bit yesterday. For those of you that are
Yes,
listening,
yes, you did.
for
Yes,
those of
you
you that are
did.
listening to us on Spotify or any of our podcasting apps, third-party services we use, thank you all so much for giving us a listen. This is the Voice of Reason podcast.
Oh
It is now
gosh.
Tuesday after
Yep.
the failed attempt yesterday to go live. We are now live on Tuesday. Um, as always, I am your host, Sean Phillips, and I am joined alongside my co-host, Mr. Andy Van Better. Travis
Dorkfish.
is
I am a dorkfish.
still
Yes, I'm a dork.
still out of the office today.
Well, Travis he's doing, he's being the good husband. Hats off to that guy for being the good husband and going in and picking his wife up from the evil clutches that is known as Chicago, Illinois. And
Downtown Chi-Town,
yeah, so,
driving through the streets of Chirac at uh, nine
so
o'clock at night.
I tell you what, this has been we're gonna have a lot of fun talking over these next couple of weeks because there is a ton of things that we get to cover. That is for sure. But so we said this already. How was Mother's Day for you guys?
Yeah, Mother's Day was great. Really, really good weekend. Friday, I got off work a little bit early. Tony got off work at her normal time. But before we picked up the kiddo, we snuck in to see Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which we'll get into here in a little bit.
Yes.
Had a really good rest of the night. Friday night, we ended up going. Well, although kind of funny, Tony, without even like knowing it, had decided she really wanted to watch Evil Dead, the new one, which wasn't.
How ironic. How
Yeah, yeah. And then I
ironic.
was like, I kind of like looked at her. I was like, you do know, like the original was directed by the guy that
Sam Raimi.
directed the movie we just watched. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Subliminal
hints
directing.
of
Yeah.
what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And then Saturday was great. We went to a Renaissance fair just down the road. Had a good time. It was a lot of fun. Did some dressing up. Had some
I
turkey
saw you.
legs. Jam had a blast.
I saw
Yeah,
your
saw my.
I saw your pictures today. That was pretty. That was pretty hot
Oh
there.
yeah. And then Sunday was nice. I made Tony kick her feet up, relax. Did a bunch of housework. I decided not to take a page out of the book of Dr. Matthew Edelman just because I value my life and things are on the up and up for me. So I'd hate to cut it short now. So
Just, I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, but I communicated with Mr. Edelman this morning, and I said the boys and I are wanting to know how soon it is that you will be joining back with us. And he said possibly as early as next week. So fingers crossed. We have
okay.
he they are finishing up the remodel on their house. So a lot to share with us about that. And but no, but we had a great weekend too. Bryson and I. So this is I'd say we're probably about 9 months into this whole disc golf thing, and we thought the YMCA. We have a great local YMCA here, and we did a disc golf scramble, and man, the disc golf community is a unique group of people. But there's some guys who can flat out, I mean, throw a frisbee. You wouldn't think that you could throw a frisbee farther than you could drive a golf ball, but there's guys out there who are throwing 300 plus yards, and it's just I'm lucky to get about 100 to 150 yards, and these guys are just flat out launching it, and they're making it curve and do all this stuff. But we had a great time, and then we actually did another round yesterday. We did Bryson and a buddy of his and we went disc golfing yesterday. We tried to do our Dad versus Bryson on Saturday. We did NASCAR, and then hence we got put into Facebook jail yesterday. I'm still trying to figure out why. I'm assuming copyright infringement or something. So it's Saturday night, then we went and saw Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, and totally blown away by that movie. And I think Marvel is really setting themselves up for a great, profitable summer. By the way it looks, shall we go ahead and just dive right into this? I mean, we
Yeah, definitely. Because I'm trying to think. The other big release is Thor,
Thor, and
right?
then there's what's coming out in. There's another one coming out later in the year. What am I? Is the multiverse is the Spider-Man into the multiverse animated? Aren't they coming out with another one?
Yeah,
Is it
but that is Sony. That's not a
okay?
Disney.
Okay,
That's not a Disney Marvel. That is Sony. I'm trying to think because
I thought
there's another one
there
that
was
comes
yeah,
out.
yeah. There's three
It's
of them.
Thor, and
Thor.
then
What's the other one that's coming out later on? But when you talk about okay, so you had Spider-Man No Way Home,
Mhm.
and then you had sandwiched in, but well, so let's start off first. So you had the Eternals, and to me, the Eternals, it was a necessary evil that Marvel had to do to set up the next phase. But as a standalone film, I thought the Eternals was a terrible project. I didn't like the way it was put together. I didn't like the way it felt or anything. And then you had Spider-Man. They redeemed this. Spider-Man. Spider-Man No Way Home was up until that point was my favorite. Was my favorite. And then they throw Morbius in there. Did you ever see Morbius?
Haven't seen Morbius, but
Don't
that's another one that's
don't
Sony, but again
don't
weird
waste your.
because it's
It's
kind of connected.
it's
So
crap.
yeah.
It's crap.
Mm.
And I went into more because Morbius, for those of you who don't know, Morbius is a vampire type character, and I was going in because I'm a huge Blade fan. I love the original Blade movies. I'm the weirdo that liked the Blade movies, and I thought somehow that Blade was going to be brought into that somehow because that they're also going they're reintroducing they're going to reintroduce Blade and Ghost Rider both. And Blade, I believe, is going to be played by, I want to say I think it's Jai White, who is a kind of a, would you say, have you ever heard of Jai White before? He's
I
kind
thought
of
it was
BC.
can't spell his name. I thought
It,
it was
is it?
I thought it starts with a CH.
I may be wrong, but
Let me pull it up real quick because and I found out the other okay, no, I was wrong. It's God, I'm gonna butcher this. Mashirala Ali,
oh, that's
who
right. Yes, 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 yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. I know.
And the other one that does come out is in November, and that is Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Oh, and that
So
is going to be, and that's going to shut, and that's going to
see
shut down
that one's gonna be interesting because
how they're going to play that.
there will how they're gonna play that, but then also there was a lot of controversy surrounding the actual filming of the film because the person who is kind of pitted to be the main character was T'Challa's
Yes,
sister,
sister.
the actress Latita Wright,
Right,
who
and
was pretty anti-vax, and so there was a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
controversy surrounding that movie with her and all the
yeah.
filming of all that. So
Well, and she pretty much. I mean, that was going to be handed to her right in her lap. I mean,
mhm.
I thought for sure because she was going to. I mean, I thought she would transition perfectly into that, and now, I mean, were they even into any filming when Chasmin Bosewick died?
I don't believe
Yeah. So
so.
so and
I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
well, and and Disney's always been this. I mean, they did the same thing with Star Wars when Carrie Fisher died. They respected the family's wishes. They didn't use. They used some stuff that they had already had from the previous film for the Rise of Skywalker, and
Mhm.
and I think that Disney's going to be or Marvel's probably going to be the same way. I'm kind of seeing how I like to see how this is going to play out, for them. But what are you hearing? And I'll go ahead and say what I say. And the biggest complaint, the biggest gripe that I'm hearing out of this whole thing is you have to, and this actually goes with thanks for all those who responded to our survey this week. Is actually this week's survey question was, do you want to see, what are your intentions of seeing the new Doctor Strange movie? And so let me bring up the group here, the poll group. So it says, I said, are you planning to, or have you seen Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness? And we had 6 people who voted yes. 6 people who voted, if I get the time, yes, so interest, but not have to. 5 voted no interest at all. And 1 voted, I feel you have to have a degree in comic book nerdology to watch these films. So, I think you almost have to be, you have to be vested almost. I was listening to a critic the other day who had interviewed, who's the executive producer, and his name's slipping me.
Kevin Feige.
Who? Kevin? Yeah, Kevin Feige. Yeah. And Kevin Feige said, and the way he put it in this interview was, we're trying to. They still want to create a movie that can stand alone, and that the average moviegoer can go in and see it, but yet be able to still do homage to the comics and be true to the comics, which Marvel has done beautifully throughout this whole journey, the 15 years almost. They've been true to the comics for a large percentage of the time. But now you have all of the add-ons. So when you go to Disney Plus, you have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you have WandaVision, you have Hawkeye, you have Moon Knight, you have the What If series. And so the What If series, and not to give away too much, but if you watch the What If series, it's an animated series that, takes different possibilities of what if the stories we saw before were played out differently. And some of those, and it introduces the idea of the multiverse as introduced in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. And so I'm like, Janine and I are sitting there in the movie, and we're just elbowing each other the whole time. Oh yeah, this is from this and this is from that, because so much was playing in from so much, and WandaVision itself plays into this. Is it going to be, and to go with our title tonight, is it going to be, do you think it'll get to the point where Marvel will out-Marvel themselves?
I think for some people, maybe. But the thing that Marvel, again, and it's the argument that I always have, or not even an argument, but the way that I kind of look at things is, if we look at Marvel, one of the biggest complaints that I normally hear about Marvel movies is that they're too cookie cutter. Like, if you've seen one Marvel movie, you've kind of seen a couple others. Mm-hmm. And my argument to that is, okay, so you've seen a lot of really good movies then, because they if they're all pretty much the same, like, they're all pretty good. Now, mind you, there have been some that I liked more than others, but I think they have the right people there that are able to mesh it well. I do think they will get to the point, like, they're pretty much at the point now where you have to have watched all of them. It's going to get to the point where it is already difficult for the casual viewer to go enjoy some of these movies. Now, there might be some of them where, again, like you said, like Doctor Strange, I think the hype that some people had, like what they expected it to be, they expected, that No Way Home level of seeing cameos, or that Endgame level of seeing cameos, and that just wasn't the case. Not to spoil the movie, but that just wasn't the case. And so I think there were some viewers that kind of wanted more because they felt like they were promised more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but again, like it's just kind of tough because you know, like next month, Thor, or not next month, this summer when Thor comes out, it's basically a Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And then fast forward to 2023, I do believe, and then we're getting a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And it's like to get that, you're going to have to have watched Thor, and
To get the
eventually,
and to get the next Guardians of the Galaxy, you've had to have seen Endgame.
mhm. And we will eventually get to the point where you you have to have watched this Doctor Strange. If you didn't watch WandaVision, you have no idea what's going on.
Mm-mm.
But mind you, if you didn't watch No Way Home, well, then there's still a chance that you're not like you weren't completely lost. But WandaVision was one of their important things. And again, brilliant marketing and strategy by Disney and by Marvel, like
Yes.
literally making it to where you have to see all of it. And even if like, but again, there's a they just did Moon Knight. It could be 10 years before we see Moon Knight with anyone else, any of these
And
others,
Moon Knight and Moon Knight
characters.
was something that could stand. Moon Knight, in my opinion, could stand alone. It's one of those that
Yeah,
you
it
could
was
jump
its
in
own,
and yeah.
and yeah, and I mean, you know, um, Oscar Isaac was insanely
Oh God,
talented. He did
yes,
such a good job. I
yes, he
can
did.
say, me personally, this is my opinion. I didn't like Moon Knight was good, but it didn't grasp me like
No,
some of the other
no, it
shows
was
have.
it kept you on
Um,
the it kept you locked in. You wanted to see
yeah,
it.
and so it was okay. It did its part. It introduced, and again, that's hard when you have a universe like this. It is difficult to be like, hey, we know we just gave you dessert and it was so good, but now you have to have your vegetables. Like you have to eat your vegetables
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
And so like when you've been given, give me, you're that where everyone that's a Marvel fan is that spoiled brat that we all hated like at Christmas when they came back, like I got this. And then it's like the next year they're like, wait, like it's Dudley from Harry Potter, where he's like counting them. He's like, I had 38 presents last year, and he's like, that why do I only count 36? And he's like, well, this year they're bigger. He's like, no, I want more.
Well, you
And
mentioned
it's
that.
just kind of
You
that's where
mentioned
we are as
so
fans.
by my count, since 2008, 26 feature films. 26.
And get this, and the top 10 and the top 10 highest grossing films of all time, 5 of them are Marvel movies.
Endgame, Infinity Wars. What would be the other ones?
Let me pull it up. No Way Home is one of them
Uh,
also.
really? Okay.
Uh, you have Endgame, you have Infinity War, you have the original Avengers, you have Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Man Far From Home. And maybe I'm let's see here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So I'm thinking of so that's lifetime gross. I'm thinking of opening weekend.
And
Top 10 opening weekend, 5 of them are all Marvel. And what's funny, I think like 2 of them are Star Wars. So it's just like
well,
Disney
and
owned
yeah,
property
and
is all the top 10.
when I look at I scroll down through this list. Okay. Oh, I also forgot about the Loki TV show series too. I almost forgot about Loki as well. And
Which is a really good
that
one.
was probably by far my favorite of all of them was Loki. So what they have set to come up. Okay, so Thor: Love and Thunder comes out July 8th. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is November 11th. The Marvels, I know nothing about. February 17th, 2023. The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, May 5th of 2023. And Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania, July 28th of next year. So that's what's for next year. So right there, so you've got next year you're going to have 3 big ones. You've got 3, good sized ones this year. And I forgot about and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Another, I thought that was a well-made film, and it's, you know, the other question that I had is this. Okay, so if you're Kevin Feige and you're sitting down with all of the Marvel geekologists, how do you think they sat down and said, okay, we've got to do this way so we can play this into this, and so do you think they have like just a giant sketchboard that they have to be able? I mean, this isn't something you write they can't write it as they go, can they?
No, absolutely not. I think now I will say I do think that there were some changes that were made at some point um, when Disney acquired Fox, because then they had access to properties that they didn't have before, like the X-Men and Fantastic Four and those different characters that they didn't have access to. Because in 24 we're getting a Fantastic Four movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say yes, but what's crazy is like when Jon Favreau started all this, when he directed the first Iron Man, they definitely looked at it. You literally got to look at it. They have to have a plan, because they teased Thanos in, like, I don't know, 2009, 2010.
That was in, and then he was in the cutscene for
one of the very first
for the Avengers. I think he was in for the Avengers. I thought it might have been
the
Avengers, or
before but the payoff was 9-10 years later.
Yes.
And so it's the same thing now. Everything they're doing now is going to lead to the Secret Wars. So, yes. Which is another huge event. So, I mean, this is a chestnut checkers kind of play by them. They know what they have. They know, and there could be some things that, because if you hear, like, again, this is one of the criticisms of these films, is that they're typically too similar. And I think that's kind of why what they've done recently is they have put more directors in where, like, they've already got the movie storyboarded. Like, this is the story you need to tell. Here's the script. You put your sugar and spice on it and make it, as much of your movie as you can with following these guidelines. And you saw that in the Doctor Strange movie with Sam's work. Like, that was one of his films. There were a ton of horror elements in that movie.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. Yeah, Sam. So we mentioned Sam Raimi before. When I heard that Sam Raimi was directing this, I knew. But before I even read anything about this, I knew. I like Janine, I was like, this is going to be a horror film. Mm-hmm. I have yet to see anything that Sam Raimi hasn't put his finger on, that it has at least suspense. And I mean, there were scenes in this that were, I'm not going to say they weren't graphic, but there were some that were just like, and and what I thought was neat was, and if you're a fan of the Evil Dead, he does a few nods to his movies.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some of the people who have been in his previous movies, in the Evil Dead movie, that make cameos in Doctor Strange. So it's really cool to see that. But yeah, when I saw Sam Raimi, I was like, okay, this is going to be a horror. And then, of course, later on I heard Sam Raimi that was like 2 years ago when they said, oh, Sam Raimi's going to be directing this, or a year and a half ago, whatever it was. And I'm like, this is going to be a horror film.
Mm-hmm. And keep going.
I think it wasn't over the top. But I mean, to me, it was one of those movies that you go and you can't really even get relaxed or try to and really just, okay, here we go, let's build the story. I mean, it was boom, 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 boom. And I think that's and I read a lot of critics on Rotten Tomato. I mean, it's got a 75% Rotten Tomato rating, which isn't terrible. But the critics who slammed it, when I was reading down through the top critics who slammed it, you could tell by their posts, okay, you're not a Marvel person. You're judging this by the content of the film as a standalone, and it's like, well,
Hmm.
it had no, you know, it was just seems like it was thrown together. I was like, well, you got to know what's going on
Yeah, it was quite literally fire on all cylinders from the opening
from the
sequence.
opening scene. Yeah.
Yeah, and so but one thing again that they're kind of receiving criticism for, people are just questioning why, and I think it's just like they think that, and again, so this boils down to where the Fox, like acquiring Fox, I think changed some things. So oh, Miss Marvel, or America Chavez, I think is her name, her
Yeah.
character's name in
Yeah.
the yeah. Well, those are not her normal powers. Those are not her
Right.
powers in the comics. In the
Right.
comics, she is elastic and stretchy, and they're kind of leaning towards making her more of a kind of Green Lantern esque kind of thing. Is the
Yes.
talk of what they're kind of going with. And when people ask, why are you guys doing it? And they're just like, well, we just felt like it didn't, it's just what she's capable of, or they were like, we didn't like where her powers were. We like the character, but the powers just match. It's like they're full of shit. It's quite literally, we like
Mm-hmm.
Reed Richards' whole thing is being elastic, and so they don't want to just put another elastic person in this universe where you have Reed Richards, who essentially is the next Iron Man for the faces moving forward.
And I am going to, and this isn't ruining anything. I mean, Mr. Fantastic does make a cameo. John Krasinski, I think it will knock that role out of the park.
And
He
I'm hoping that he's the one that they use for it. Like actually use him moving forward in that, and it's not just like a variant of Reed Richards.
Yeah,
You know?
Shelby just came in on our chat and said America Chavez isn't Miss Marvel. Yes, Miss Marvel actually will be.
Oh yeah. I didn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, and
Miss
yeah.
Marvel will be coming out. I believe it's June. It's either June the 6th or June. Let me see. It'll be June the 8th because it's the Marvel's the Disney Plus is always Wednesday. So June the 8th will be when Miss Marvel will make its debut on Disney Plus, and so this is a to me, this is going to be a golden goose. As you said, they developed this. You're gonna see. So what are we? We're in phase 5 now. Phase 5, and this will be another. I mean, you're just now after coming out of after they're coming out of with all of the people from phase. Now they're okay. Now we're making this transition, and this will go on 4 or 5 years. She said, Chris and I were talking about how they changed her origin a tad and control of her powers, but that wasn't a huge difference. She's commenting on what you had said earlier, Sean. So, I mean, so now let's get into this from the movie purist, just as you and I are both big movie guys.
Yeah.
So, if you are Kevin Feige, if you are Marvel Studios, how far do you milk this golden goose? How far do you take this? I mean, in all actuality, you could take this.
Excuse me.
You could take this at least another 15 to 20 years. When you say, is that safe?
Uh, and beyond.
Yeah.
And beyond. Like, and this is the way that I kind of splice it. Is as we've seen, they're doing what they can to continue to expand. They're always introducing more. They're introducing new, but again, they're smart because they take their titans of characters, their real big ones that everyone's all about, and they're like, how can we get 10 to 15 years out of this character? Okay, and they're going to continue to do that, and they're going to build new stars. They're going to add more people. But like Benedict Cumberbatch had said, he's like, I will continue to be this character as long as the story is good, and based off of kind of what we've seen, where his role is, he will be in for as long as he's alive, another 10 years until we get Secret Wars. There's no doubt in my mind.
And as another thing too, so who played Wanda is no
Elizabeth Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen last year signed a 7-year extension or 7-year contract with Marvel. My wife just informed me about this yesterday, and so Wanda's going to be a part of this, whole thing. And, and I can go back far enough because I go back to pre Iron Man days. So now they can reintroduce everything in this because, and you've seen in the trailer, so this isn't a spoiler. Professor X is in this movie. Okay, so now with the introduction of this Marvel, with this multiverse, so now you can reintroduce X-Men in a different way. Although I thought the X-Men movies were all fairly well done. And then you have, of course, all your other characters. I want to see, okay, how are you going to, if you've watched any of the cutscenes from previous movies, Deadpool is obviously going to, or not Deadpool, Venom. Venom is going to play into this mix. Again, so you have Venom, Morbius, and Spider-Man, who are part of Marvel Universe, but they are Sony-owned properties. And I mean, in the Venom movie, and Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and this in the cutscene at the very end is where, Venom goes, he hops through multiverses just like everybody else did. And so there's the nod to Marvel, to Doctor Strange and Spider-Man there. So you're going to see that come together. So there's so many different. I mean, you sit there and you just wrap your mind around everything in this and that happens in this, and that's why I told people. I said, your mind is going to explode when you watch this movie. If you're caught up, if you're caught up on the MCU universe, it'll go fine. And I think even if you're not, I think that Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness will satisfy. And if you're a Sam Raimi fan, definitely go and see this film. So, but what else any other thoughts that you had about that?
No, I mean, one thing I just like, I wish, and it probably will never happen because it's their last real, true intellectual property that they own that, they make serious money from. But I wish that, like, Sony would just let Disney take the reins of their Spider-Verse, because it's their films are messy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like they're smart because they realize that with Spider-Man, the letting Disney profit off of it to them is worth it because they make more than they would without them. Like if they try doing their own thing, it wouldn't make enough. It wouldn't make as much money. Although now, what the talk is, it's like, well, is there that possibility that, like, you have this Spider-Verse of villains that they're building up, because they're giving, I don't even know the character's name, so don't try to ask me, but Bad Bunny, the musician, is getting a movie as a character in that universe. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to continue to build that universe but then not have a Spider-Man for it, like, just bring Andrew Garfield back, give mm-hmm. the dude a $50 million paycheck, mm-hmm. and bring him back. Like, well,
I thought that you had to have, I think they had Marvel had to be pretty much in Sony's earpiece for No Way Home. They had to be, to make it congruent with the rest of the series. They had to be there. If you watch Morbius, it is it's just like blah 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 blah. And I mean, it's Jared Leto. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I didn't like him as the Joker. I didn't like his attempts to do, and and they try to play him off as this guy and it's as this doctor and his, it's just it was just so you know. So I'm with you on that, Sean. Sony needs to just say, look, other than the Spider-Man shows, we're laying goose eggs here. We're laying goose eggs, and we need to, you know, let that go. And so I don't know the future of things, and I'm also going to be interested. And this is kind of changing gears a little bit, but I'm also going to be interested to see how DC plays their cards out this summer with, you know, so they're going to try, and you want to talk about copycats. So Flash and Aquaman are going to be their two big releases this year, and Flash is already, so they're already talking multiverses with Flash, and Michael Keaton will make an appearance in Flash as older Batman, and you're like, okay, just DC tried to do what Marvel did in 14 and a half years. DC tried to do in what, 4 years, 5 years?
Not even.
Not even. I mean,
Not even.
you had, you had the Batman movies. Well, shoot, you had three different runs at Batman movies. Four, I guess, technically, if you count Ben Affleck, George Clooney, Christian Bale. Who am I leaving out? Michael Keaton. And to me, their only saving works that they have put out has been Wonder Woman. And, Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't terrible. The first one was better. And then, they tried Justice League, and then they re-released the Zack Snyder cut, 4 hours of my life that I'll never get back. And then you go headlong then in, and they kind of gave themselves a little bit of a reprisal, I think, with Aquaman wasn't terrible, Shazam wasn't terrible, but I mean you're trying to jump into the marathon without getting any training. You're going to fall flat on your face. And DC, Warner Brothers, I think have always had this Marvel Studios envy, and so they're not going to create a good project. That's just all there is to it. So
yeah, it's one of those things. I wish there was just a wee bit more patience, because I'm a firm believer, and people might disagree, and that's fine. I'm a firm believer that I like DC characters. I think that, as far as the comics, the comics go, I prefer reading DC comics, and that's just me. I love Marvel. Don't get it twisted. I think part of the issue that DC might be running into, maybe, is some of their characters are a lot larger than life. Like Marvel, even though they're space fighting Thanos and stuff like that, at least there's a realism level to each and everything that they do. Whereas with DC, it's they have Superman, and his power is everything. So
right.
It just kind of makes it kind of tough. But again, the issue was you had a great movie in Man of Steel,
and
then it just
fantastic movie.
Yeah, I just think a lot of it boiled down to, I mean, obviously there were a bunch of behind the scenes issues, and then again the issue with the Justice League with, it started with Zack Snyder, and then Joss Whedon came in, and then he tried
to marvel it up too much.
And so, again, DC, their last two great projects were standalone films: The Joker, and Batman. And so,
I haven't seen the
they're
Batman yet. I haven't seen that yet. It's on my to watch list. It is, but I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day. She said, "Yeah, you don't want to. This isn't one that you watch with the kids, and it's not one that, but it's not quite the same magnitude as the Joker, but the Joker to me, that was a tour de force for for Phoenix, for Joaquin Phoenix. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
you
such
you
a good film.
you knew what you were getting when he went into that role. You knew exactly what you were getting. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it plays into that same madness that Heath Ledger, but only darker. I
Mhm.
thought up until Joaquin Phoenix, I thought that Heath Ledger was by far the best Joker, and then and then Joaquin Phoenix comes in and says, "Oh yeah, hold my beer, watch
Right.
this."
Yeah, I think the issue that Warner Brothers is kind of running into now, and again, what we could see it affect them in the box office potentially is the drama surrounding Amber Heard and then the drama surrounding Ezra Miller. And so it's just kind of like they've put a lot of cash and look at like here's the thing about Marvel. Again, where Marvel has been successful is because they've planned everything out so strategically, right? They've got the roadmap, they've got everything done. If they have to pause a movie or push the release date of a movie back, don't worry, we still have two more movies coming out. We also have a TV show coming out. We're going to satisfy that itch.
Do you,
DC has pushed back The Flash by like 2 years now.
mm-hmm.
Aquaman 2 got pushed back.
Well, and this whole Amber Heard
Black
thing.
Adam.
Well,
Yeah, and the Amber Heard thing's not going to be good for the movie. No one, like,
that people
well,
are not gonna.
a rumor that I've seen. It was like a article from like Screen Rant. Was that according like apparently her screen time has been cut down to about 10 minutes in this film, and then it's like,
Good,
okay, well, if
good.
they've edited all that kind of stuff out, then what's the final? What's the quality of the actual movie going to be? Um, Again, you feel for people because like I love Jason Momoa as Aquaman,
Yes.
um, but it's again, it's just like there should have been more build. They should have been more patient, and I think if there would have been a bit more patience, things would have worked out better. But then again, like it makes things confusing because you have movies like the Batman that were so good and Joker that were so good that are their own thing. Like they're not even in that realm of the universe. And why would you put them in
Mm-hmm.
there? Because it's just like, don't muddy the water. But again, like you can see that like with Zack Snyder's, Justice League, that there were plans to do something. But again, and this is where many people disagree. But if we look at Marvel, okay, and again, people talk about how they've been cookie cutters, the same film. When it comes to certain intellectual properties, okay, no one gives a shit how artistic you are, okay. And what I mean by that is
If you've got a
when
formula,
you
stay with it.
well, what I mean by that is like when you watch the Justice League, the Zack Snyder version especially, there's like 45 minutes of that movie, so a fourth of the movie is in slow motion, and it's just like the color schemes and everything. It's like,
It's
dude,
off. It's off.
it's off, and it looks unrealistic, and it's just like when you spend all this money and all this stuff, like you want it to look as realistic as possible, and it's just like, hey, I just needed a superhero movie. I didn't need to see an artsy superhero movie.
Right.
Like, I think that is just kind of like where a lot of people got turned off. Was it was like when Dawn of Justice came out, it was like, hey, it's cool that it was like a dark film, but like
You need to. Well,
there was no substance to the movie. It felt like at times.
in our chat line, Shelby, thanks for the comments. She first said, "I'm too mentally unstable for Joker," and she said that jokingly. I've still not been able to watch it, and then she said, "At the point it's only 10 minutes. Why not just totally cut or recast her?" Talking about Amber.
Hmm.
Like, why be so stubborn? So her question is like, why be so stubborn to her to hurt your overall project? What do you what?
Well, it's the same thing like with the Ezra Miller situation, with him being arrested multiple times in Hawaii for attacking people randomly. Um, they've paused any future projects with him, but it's like he is a staple character in two of their biggest
Right.
franchises, the Flash and then in the Fantastic Beasts films, which again, where that's where a lot of people are really confused, is because while this trial is going on, they released the Fantastic Beasts: Secrets of Dumbledore, which is a movie that they cut Johnny Depp from,
Yep.
and yet they're releasing a movie this summer that has Amber Heard in it, and it's just like, man, this is a weird time, especially in the culture that we live in. I really hope that Warner. I love the intellectual property that Warner Brothers owns. I love so much of it, and so I really do hope that things kind of get figured out and the wheels keep on turning, because I'm a big fan. Like I love the
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I just really, as someone that's so passionate about like the source material, you just want to see them have that success on screen so that they can continue to do more. Like we like there's never yeah, they could release a different Batman movie every year, and I wouldn't care. They do that pretty much. Like
Well,
that's just the nature of the
and
beast because it's Batman.
well,
But
you've
the
let
other
you,
stuff you want to see them do well.
and I do want to go back and comment something about when you talked about Zack Snyder. When you look at his earlier work, one of his pieces, Sin City,
And 300
in
and the
300,
Watchmen.
The Watchmen, all of the, and which I've seen all of those. And then you look at the Snyder cut. It's, to me, it's the same. Zack Snyder is almost typecast as a director. What you're going to get, these really sharp images, but with these really dull, drab colors that, especially in the 300. I mean, when I was watching Justice League, I was still seeing scenes of the Battle of the Spartans with the Persians, and we will blot out the sun, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just seeing those kind of scenes play back in my head, and you know, I like with Marvel how they give different directors, and you get that different feel with all of those movies. You know, Shang-Chi, I mean, let's think about this too. Black Panther and Shang-Chi. So that right there, I think, was a brilliant move for Marvel, because now not only are you reaching out to comic book nerds, and you saw this with Captain Marvel as well, you're diverging out into these different groups. Okay, so how can we draw on African Americans? Well, you got to bring in Black Panther. And Black Panther was so widely acclaimed and accepted. You know, Captain Marvel. I mean, I think they're going to use Captain Marvel to go out, LGBTQ community, because, she'll draw that crowd. And then you have with Shang-Chi. I cannot tell you how much and I know this personally as a father of Asian children. And Briley is not a Marvel person. Not a Marvel person, but she loved Shang-Chi because, hey, Asian superhero,
Mm-hmm.
which was brilliant, and I thought that movie was so beautifully done. I can't think of the rapper. What's the name of the rapper that's in that? The female rapper,
Aquafina.
Aquafina. You know, Briley just so liked her, her sassiness. I mean, and that was a well done film. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I know I'm all over this place, but I geek out over these trailers. When I saw the latest trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder, to me, it's like, okay, they're also trying to stick with kind of a generation theme, like Thor Ragnarok was kind of like that, had that 70s feel with the graphics and Led Zeppelin, and then the trailers playing Sweet Child of Mine, and and the graphics just remind me of some of the commercials I saw in the 80s with the graphics that they were using, and I really dig that, and you know I but so let's go with this too. All right, so you give me your top. If you're okay, so you're going to say Marvel. Give me what you feel are your, and if you want to do honorable mentions, whatever. So give me your top three that you have been in for already.
My top three. In third place would probably be.
I'll let you think about this just for a second.
Yeah, if you know
So,
yours.
well, to me, so number three is going to it, and it's a tie for me, between Thor Ragnarok and Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like those. Number two is number two again is a toss-up for me, but I'm going to go with Captain America: The First Avenger. And then number one for me, I can watch, and this is one of those movies that whenever it comes on TV, I don't care where it's at in the film, I'll turn on and watch it. It's Iron Man, the first Iron Man. To me, that is it. Because for me, as a child of the '80s, I grew up watching Robert Downey Jr. and he was typecast as the douche, pretty much preppy douche in every film in the '80s that he was in, and his lifestyle matched that.
Mhm.
And I love Iron Man for the fact that it was a great theatrical piece, but I also like the fact that it was such a great redeeming role for Robert Downey Jr. to finally put that chapter of his life behind him.
Mhm.
And now you're talking about Sherlock Holmes 3 coming out, and I mean he did this other great movie. I don't think people really. It's called The Judge. I don't know if you ever saw that one with
I
him.
haven't
And
seen it, but I've heard it's great.
it is a great film, great film. And but yeah, so those would be my top three. I think. So where would you go?
I would probably say three would boil down for me between Iron Man and Infinity War.
Yeah, yeah,
But man, Ragnarok was fun. But
yeah.
so was Guardian. Man, that's tough.
Guardians was really fun. That's my honorable
The
mention.
first Guardians is really, really good.
The soundtrack
But
alone.
second, I would. Oh, for sure. The second, I'm gonna say No Way Home, and I would say it would be first, but like there was a big key to that was nostalgia. But again,
Yep.
it
Yeah.
was
Oh yeah.
also, I think, William Dafoe's best role
Oh
as
yes, as
the Green Goblin.
Green Goblin.
Such a good movie. And
Yep.
then in first place is Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Oh,
Is
that. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
was
Oh
such a good movie,
yes.
and I think why I like that movie even more was because of I wasn't a huge fan of Captain America: Civil War,
No.
because Civil War was one of my favorite comics, and just kind of how it played out on the screen
It was
wasn't my favorite. But
yeah.
again, great movie, but just it didn't. There were a
True.
couple scenes that I watched that it was like, this is not how this went here, and yeah, but it was good. I again, I arguably don't think there's really been a bad, like I've
Well,
enjoyed. I've watched
well,
every single one of them.
yeah. So you don't have to do this, but I'm going to give you my bottom three. Okay, in no particular order. Thor: The Dark World. I
I
watched
think that's probably like everybody's.
Thor: The Dark World was just kind of, and I've already mentioned the Eternals. Eternals was just okay. I get it. And
Had
surprise,
Selma Hayek in it, so it should have been my favorite
and
movie.
and then oh yeah, Shelby says honorable mentions to all the Spider-Mans, definitely. And Black Widow to me was a huge, huge, huge letdown. But of course, it was, you know, I understood that they had to do that, and everything. Oh, Shelby also says, keep in mind, when I've never seen, I've been into the comics, so on limited knowledge with just the movies. She says Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, honestly, Multiverse of Madness, but I'm obsessed with Scarlet Witch, so I am biased. So there you go. But this is definitely going to be the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah, of course I like Paul Rudd. I love Paul
Mhm.
Rudd. They like I said, they get the right. I think they get the right people to play these roles. But and this is the downside. Then I'll end with this, and we'll go into something else. But the danger about let's go back to Robert Downey Jr. So his first movie in Iron Man was 2008. Okay. So then his last appearance then was in Endgame in 2019. So you spent 11 years of your career devoted to the MCU. Okay. And you're seeing this with Chris Hemsworth, because he's going to be, we don't know what we're going to see in Love and Thunder. You're definitely in this with Chris Pratt now. Okay. So these guys are going to be tied up. And after that, you're going to be, but it's also good for the actors in the fact that say, man, I really loved him as Iron Man. I want to go see him in. Yeah, exactly. So genius moves all the way around for the so. But yeah, I'm really excited about what Marvel has in store. Like I said, I loved the TV series. Like I said, the Loki and Hawkeye, I loved both of those. Moon Knight, like you said, was okay. WandaVision, you had to have it. And then Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a good, kind of a buddy-esque movie, or buddy-esque show, series.
Lots of good explosions.
Yeah. So before we cut out tonight, so Sean, and I wanted to do this as the ending thing, and we can talk some more about this too. So Sean has always said, we're everywhere. So this week, I had some downtime on Monday. So I went through and I thought, okay, I'm going to research where we are at on the internet. Now, we use our distribution site is called Anchor FM. These guys have put us out. So this is who we're with. We are with Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook Live, Google Podcasts, which Sean usually mentions every week. Then we have iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Audible.com, Stitcher, which is if you have SiriusXM, Stitcher is on SiriusXM, which that excites me. TuneIn.com, Twitch, Podchaser, Castbox, Podbay, Podurama, and Pod Paradise. And that is just to name a few. We are out there, and people listen to us on our latest. We do, we're 10 episodes deep now into this season. And when I do I thank you. I don't know what happened, but I was doing this 2 weeks ago, and I sent a screenshot to Sean. But if I go to it, we had the week before last. I don't know why this happened, but on our diagnostic site, I don't know if I'll be able to pull it up and you can see it in our window or not. But it was the week of April 20th through April 26th. We had 243 plays in that 1 week. And we want to thank you guys for that. We don't know who you are. We don't know who's doing this mass listening, but it tickles us to death when you see, and you can kind of see the chart there in the bottom. When those of you who are watching live, you can see our little chart how it peaks there. And, still our best episode of all time. Well, now we have a new best episode. Sean was Sean Yates, but now our Ukraine episode, our 1 year special Ukraine episode, it has the most listens. One other interesting thing, and it may be hard for me to pull this up, but when you look at where our listeners are at, this is another interesting fact. Let me see if I can scoot the window over a little bit to see this. But one of the interesting facts of the groups of people who we have, and I can make this adjustment real quick here. But some of the groups, where people are listening at, here we go. So you look at this graph right here, and we have, of course, 88% of our listeners are in the United States. 10% of our listeners, Sean, you'll be interested to know, 10% of our listeners are from Germany. 10%. Guten Tag. Okay? 1% Sweden, 1% Brazil, 1% Estonia, 1% Romania, 1% U.S. Virgin Islands, 1% Singapore, 1% United Kingdom, 1% Chile, 1% Mongolia, 1% Denmark, 1% India, 1% France. So Viva la, and then the majority of our listeners listen on Apple Podcast, and then followed up by Spotify. Other interesting facts: we have our key. You guys are 28 to 34. Thank you for being a big part of our demographic. 40% of you are 28 to 34, and 70% male, 27% female. And this was also interesting. 3% non-specified / non-binary. So I know where that came from, and so we want to thank all of you folks. You guys are making us into what we are. It blows. I love reading these. I mean, at first in the beginning, you can look at some of these charts in the beginning. You're like, oh man, and then we just start hitting these spikes, and we've had over 1,000 all-time plays, 1,550, and that for us is phenomenal. So thank you for all of you guys who listen to us, and we get a lot. And of course, and then our YouTube audience is growing. We're getting close to 40 subscribers on YouTube. So, big deal, 40 subscribers for a group that started with just our close-knit group of friends who said, "Hey, check this out and look at us, man." Mm-hmm. And we, obviously from a year ago, I mean, I had my Facebook memory popped up today, Sean. A year ago today, we talked about UFOs.
Nice.
It was a year.
I remember that episode.
Yes. Yeah. So great stuff. Thank you guys for listening. Continue to share us and all that other great stuff. And we are overjoyed, happy, and great. Not only did we make it through this episode tonight without any technical difficulties, but you guys really do like us and you really do care.
Yes, and as always, be a friend, tell a friend, make sure you guys share this. Again, just literally anybody that you see crossing the street. This is how we grow, and again, we've seen those spikes, and they'll continue to come, and more special stuff is in store. So again, please make sure you guys check us out, share, and we can't wait to talk to you guys. Hopefully, Travis will be joining us next week.
See you.